Shalom uvracha from Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. We continue this evening, with the help of God, our joint study of the ethics of the fathers, the Mishnayot of Pirkei Avot. And today we continue our study with the third part of chapter 2, Mishnah 5. Perek Bet, Mishnah Hey. This is our third session in this Mishnah, which I hope to complete this evening. We are studying the teachings of the great Rabbi, whose name is known throughout the world, surely throughout the Jewish communities of the world, but I believe throughout the entire world. His name is Hillel. And Hillel taught, as we read this evening, I'm towards the end of the Mishnah, if anyone is following in the text, Al Tomar Davar She'i Efshar Lishmoa Shesofo Lehishama. Don't take the attitude that you can teach even in the way which is not understood by the people who are listening, and your justification will be that eventually they'll understand what I'm saying. No. It's the obligation of someone who's sharing ideas. It's the obligation of someone who's teaching. It's the obligation of someone who's directing to speak in a way that can be heard now, that can be understood now. Al tomar davar she'i efshar lishmoa. People don't understand what you're saying. But your justification will be sofo. Sofo means eventually they'll get it. No, now. You have to speak in a clear way. And I guess each of us has encountered different kinds of teachers in our lives. Do you ever have a kind of teacher who understands the material so well that every participant feels they understand the message of the text, or they understand the message of the topic that's being studied? But sometimes there are those who speak in such a lofty fashion, such an abstract way, that there are many of the participants who have no understanding of the concepts that have been related. We view the excellent teacher not as the one who could speak in a way that most people cannot understand, but the one who could speak in a way that everybody can understand. Try to teach everyone. It says at the end of the book of Kohelet, the end of the book of Ecclesiastes, Yoter shehaya Kohelet chacham. I'll translate two different ways. The very end of the book, chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes, it says, V'yoter shehaya Kohelet chacham. In addition to the fact that Kohelet was so wise, Kohelet is the son of David, which according to one tradition is Solomon, the wisest of men. The great Kohelet ben David, Melech Yerushalayim. These are the words of Kohelet, son of David, the king of Yerushalayim. He's Shlomo, he's King Solomon. But Yoter Shaya Kohelet Chacham, in addition to being so wise, Od Limad Da'at et Ha'am. He was able to share wisdom. He was able to impart knowledge to the people, to the masses. V'zein v'chiker dikein mishalim harbei. He listened. He investigated. What are the needs of the people? What did they have to hear? And he taught his words with many, many forms of proverbs, with many forms of similes, with many forms of examples. So Yoter, in addition to him being so wise, that he was able to do that as well. I once heard from my father, of blessed memory, he said the word Yoter in Hebrew can be even greater, more than. Greater than the fact that Kohelet was so wise was that he was able to teach the masses. Do you ever meet someone who's such an advanced level scholar that the only audience that can listen to him, the only audience that can listen to her, are people who are very well trained in that field, people who are advanced in that field? Bring them to a high school class. Nobody knows what they're talking about. They can't speak. They have no commonality of expression. Or bring them to an elementary school. Or bring them to people who are untrained in their area. Kohelet, the greatest wisdom, and maybe that's true in all areas, surely in Torah wisdom, but I think is that you could speak to everyone on the level that they are ready to hear. And if you do that, you're an excellent teacher. But if you speak in a way, well, let them figure my words out later, you know. Hillel is saying that's incorrect. Al tomar davar. Do not share the kind of word, the kind of teaching, she'i efshar l'shmoa, which is impossible to comprehend. L'shmoa doesn't only mean to hear; it means to understand. Do not teach in a way that cannot be understood. Shesofo lihishama, and you think, well, they will eventually understand. Maybe they will eventually understand. Maybe they will not eventually understand. Maybe they will misunderstand your words. And even if you're so advanced in your own studies, try to find the way to teach on the level of the person, or the persons who are listening to your lecture or to your speech. One of the most beautiful parts of Torah to me is that the same Torah is studied by all ages. All ages. Is there any other textbook in the world that, pick any discipline you want? Imagine a textbook. Imagine a textbook being used in the kindergarten, pre-1A, second grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, high school, college, doctoral program, postdoc. You can't have the same textbook. The same textbook. The advanced rabbi who's been studying Torah for the last 85 years. You look at what book is he reading? He's reading, let's say, Genesis. He's reading Bereshit. You look at, let's say, he's a young child just starting his career. He's 5 years old. What's he reading? He's reading Genesis. He's reading Bereshit. They're reading the same book. How can it be the same book? Where do you ever find such a thing? Is there any example in the world of a book that's for all ages and for all people? So the Torah could speak in a way that everyone hears the message. If you are a Torah teacher, says Hillel, make sure that the words should be understood. And sometimes what happens is, anyone who's involved in teaching knows that there is an expression of, I understand it, but I can't really explain, And one rabbi wrote, if you can't really explain, you probably can't really understand either, right? I mean, maybe, because if you really understand, so find the way to teach. I was privileged to study under the tutelage of great teachers, great rabbis. I'll give the example of one of my closest teachers. His name was Rabbi Avigdor Miller of blessed memory. And he was such a great scholar, but he had people coming to his class who never, I'm talking about his classes in Talmud, in Rabbinic, in Gemara, and in Rabbinic literature. And he sometimes was teaching the most complicated of discussions within the framework of Talmud. You would think, like, in most courses there's something called prerequisites, right? You can't just walk into a advanced class in calculus if you don't know how to add 1 plus 2, right? He didn't have any prerequisites. Just come and enjoy it, and it was amazing to me. I studied with him for years. It was amazing. He was able to teach in a way that the people who were advanced students in Talmud received something from his lecture, and the person who never opened a Talmudic text. So don't say eventually it'll be understood. And the early commentaries say there's a danger. Not only the frustration of them not understanding. And I quote from the Rav, one of the classical commentaries on the Mishnah. He writes, "Ki ze yavi b'nei adam lit'ot b'dvarecha," because people will err in the message you're trying to impart. Shema yit'u, and maybe they will misunderstand. V'yetzu l'minut al yadcha, they will leave the pathway of righteousness, and because they will think that you meant A when you really meant B, that you were teaching C when you're really teaching D. That's the first comment. There's another way of reading this Mishnah, and that is that Hillel's saying, don't think that I could share something very private and it'll just stay with the person that I'm speaking to. Because the same words, I'll repeat them in Hebrew with a completely different reading. Sometimes a person thinks, okay, it will never go, I just want to tell you something. And I'm relying upon the fact that it just stays with you. And you're great people, so maybe it doesn't apply to you. But he's saying, Al tomar davar. Don't share something which is efshar l'shmoa, which should not be heard. But I told it to you like, private. I whispered. I'm sorry?
Commandment out to daber lashon.
Correct. This is all connected to that idea. And he's saying that the reality of the world is that all of those matters that you think are so securely tight and are not going anywhere, be careful. Because shesofo lehishama, eventually it will be heard. You think it has a limited audience? Well, this person repeats it to one. Listen, I'll tell you something, but don't tell it to anyone else, right? And then the other, I'll tell you something, and then eventually, you turn around. Who knows how many people are saying it? So perhaps a person has to be careful. You can have a confidant. We recommend such kinds of ideas, but be careful, because don't think that which you share will never be heard. It will be heard. Al tomar davar she'i efshar l'shmoa shesofo lehishama. I once spent Shabbat with Henny and with our family, with Rav Shlomo Kalabach, a blessed memory on his Moshav.
This before Aliyah.
No, after we lived in Israel. After we lived in Israel, we went for Shabbat once.
Oh, after you made out.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah, so I wanted my children to meet him, and some of them didn't want to get up early in the morning to listen to him lead the services. Until today, I tried waking some of them up and saying, "This is one of the greatest, chazanim that you're ever going to hear. Leave me alone, Abba." Okay. So we spent Shabbat in the Moshav, and I remember he taught in the afternoon. He taught on the lawn. It was very beautiful. He was teaching about secrets. And his teaching was that you could tell the greatness of an individual by how many secrets they're able to keep. And he said there are unfortunately many people in this world, I don't want to say it, but can't even keep one secret. And then there are some people who already have mastered the great art of secrecy, and they can keep a secret. But how many secrets can they keep? He claimed. What?
Be surprised.
He claimed that the greater the individual, the more secrets they can guard. He gave the example then.
Beautiful.
What?
Beautiful.
He gave the example then of Rabbi Schneerson, who was the spiritual leader of blessed memory, the spiritual leader of the Lubavitch community. People all over the world would confide in him. He says, "Do you know how many secrets this man walks around with? Tens of thousands of people correspond with him. Who does he share the secrets with? Right? It's the most personal information, the most important. That's a great quality." And Hillel is recognizing the reality of the world. Says, "Be careful. Al tomar. Don't take the attitude of thinking, I'll say this matter. Al tomar davar she'i efshar l'shmo. It's not going to go anywhere." In most cases, it's going very far, And he wrote this way before cell phones, way before, emails, way before internet. Yeah, something happens, within 5 seconds, it's all over the world. Al tamar davar she'i efshar l'shmo. Don't take that attitude. It's wrong. It's a mistake. It's a mistaken perception. Shesofo lehishama, and don't be shocked when eventually it is heard. But I told someone in confidence, the rabbis say that even the walls have ears. Aznayim lakotel. Now today that's not amazing teaching because there are many walls that are tapped and and we have all kinds of surveillance but they wrote this before that. That means who knows? You say there are all kinds of it's okay. Wait a minute. This is I hope it's not disturbing anyone who's watching that. My grandson is expressing himself in a way that can be heard. He says, don't speak in a way. Don't think that you cannot be heard. You will be heard. Not only will you be heard here in Yerushalayim, you'll be heard on YouTube. right, the wall is right. Al Tamar Davar She'ef Shalishma. Don't think you can just cry in Yerushalayim. It's a little local cry. It can be heard anywhere, right? Hope he's okay. Somebody went downstairs, right?
Yeah, we go.
Okay. And the end of the Mishnah is the final teaching is Al Tomar, says Hillel. Do not take the attitude of L'chish epaneh eshneh. Don't say, teachers are great, a teacher Hillel. Don't take the attitude of I will study when I have leisure time. When I will have extra time, when I will be freed of all my responsibilities, then I'll study. You know, now I'm busy. I'm trying to earn a proper livelihood. I'm trying to go to work. I'm trying to take care of the issues at hand. Trying to take care of my family. But eventually I'll study. Al tomar l'chish epaneh eshneh. Don't say when I'm freed of my responsibilities, when I have leisurely time, when I don't have the obligations that I have now, that's when I will study. You know why? Shema lo tipaneh. Because who says you'll ever get to that stage? Don't push off to tomorrow what you could do today. One of my great rabbis once used to say it to us all the time. I think it was Rabbi Kaplinsky, if I'm not mistaken. He used to say, all the things that you wanted to do tomorrow, do them right now, because today is yesterday's tomorrow. So today's the day. So do it right now. Don't say, I'm involved in this project. After I finish this project, I'll start coming to the Torah classes. I'll study. After I retire, that's when I'm going to be there every day studying. Who knows, right? Who knows when you'll retire, if you'll retire, and what you'll do in your post-retirement. Any good deed should be tried to be carried out immediately. If a person is, God forbid, tempted to do the opposite of a good deed, one of the greatest suggestions that we have for them is push it off. Tomorrow, next week next month, next year. That's good to procrastinate. The rabbis teach, since we're a few days before Pesach, maybe we'll just conclude with one Pesach teaching. The rabbis teach that the Hebrew word for matzot is identical spelling with the Hebrew word for mitzvot. Matzot and mitzvot. Matzot are the matzah bread crackers that we're all going to be eating this week with the help of God. And mitzvot means the fulfillment of good deeds, of commandment. What's the connection between matzot and mitzvot? Spelled in the Bible identically. In today, the way we write Hebrew, we spell mitzvot with two vavs. But the biblical spelling is mem tzadi vav taf for matzot and mitzvot. So when a word is spelled the same way, there's some kind of connection, right? So what's the connection? The rabbis say the same way the Torah teaches, Ushemartem et hamatzot. Guard the matzot. What do you have to guard the matzot? Be careful with the matzot. What do you have to be careful? Be careful that they don't become leavened. Be careful that they don't become hametz. Be careful that they don't turn into the bread, but stay matzah bread. So too, guard all of the mitzvot. Ushmartem et ha-mitzvot. In the language of the rabbis, mitzvah haba'al liyadcha al tahamitzenna. Don't turn the mitzvah opportunity into chametz. I'll let the dough rise. If you let the dough rise, it's going to become chametz. If you don't seize the moment, if you don't seize the opportunity, today, you can study today. You can fulfill that good deed today. Today's the good day. Treat it the way you bake the matzot. You don't just let the dough sit around. You're baking it immediately. So get to that mitzvah immediately. Matzot and mitzvot. And that's what Hillel's teaching here. Don't say l'chish epaneh eshneh. When I finish my businesses, when I finish my activities, then I will study. Because who knows if that day will ever come. Now, get to it immediately, and you will be blessed. I thank everyone for listening. You wanted to say something?
No, just thank you.
Thank you also. Shalom and bracha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.